Well, good morning, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It is the weekly SMB Nation webinar. It's essentially mid-December, so we have a couple of weeks of business left, followed by arguably a week of holiday pleasure. So appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to fit in our conversation. I'm starting a series where I'm going to count down from secret number 5 to secret number 1 over the next few months. If you're kind of wondering what the title's about, this webinar is Why Base Hitters Outperform Home Run Hitters. I'm Harry Brelsford. I'm joined by Carl Katz. We'll introduce Carl more in just a moment. A couple of more introductory items and a little bit of housekeeping. So if you're not familiar with SMB Nation, we have some brand extensions, Telefonation 365, 0365 Nation, and we just celebrated 15 years in business. So that's something we all feel pretty good about, and that's the core staff. A couple people were out that day when we took the photo, but that's basically the core staff. We've been active in the industry for the 15 years we've been here in a variety of ways, both technical and business. And a couple of updates for you. So we have the 7-City NFL Roadshow coming up. So you can go to 0365tour.smbnation.com, kind of see the artwork there on the right-hand side, lower right. But what we're doing is, based on popular demand, starting in January in the Seattle area and going down to the Bay Area, we're having a dedicated one-day event having Office 365 conversations, and by golly, it's been pretty popular. I'll make mention of this again, but we have over 6 hours of academic content in a one-day session, along with the food and catering and some vendor support. We have 0365 Nation site. By the way, please turn on your second monitor. Let me just say that right up front. I know how webinars are. You have a couple monitors. You might be answering email over on the right. It's not so much I want you to do that, but please turn on your second monitor, spawn a browser over to monitor number 2, check out these links, and then we're going to go through an exercise at the end of the webinar. So you will need to have a browser up and a monitor up at the same time you're watching me on monitor number 1. So take a peek at our 0365 Nation site. We also have, if you want to get any more information from me, Office 365 peer groups with Ken Thorson and Keith Lubner, helping you, quite frankly, develop a cloud practice. And finally, the fall conference is October 1 through 3 in Redmond, Washington. So let's go to first base. Let's use the baseball analogy. So we get a base hit, and I want to talk about some high-level stuff, kind of being the life learner. Got a little Christmas reading that I want you to think about. So the E-Myth Revisited by Gerber. The tagline on that is Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And darn it, I see it every day, and I'll tell you, it's exceedingly frustrating. So let me give you a very recent example. I had an opportunity cross my desk down in the San Francisco Bay Area, so it was going to be for the weekend prior to Thanksgiving. It was a Windows Server 2003 conversion up to 2012 R2. And it was fairly significant work. It was going to be 2+ days, billing out at the rates we enjoy. I'm going to offer $150 an hour. We'll just agree on an hourly bill rate. And I reached out to a couple of leading SBSers, small business server aficionados from the old day, better known as SMB IT pros. Reached out a couple of times to SBSer number 1, voicemail and email, never heard back, and reached out to SBSer number 2. Now he was already booked. He has a fair excuse. He was already booked that weekend with work. Good on him, but he kicked it out to a couple of other SBSers, and we never heard back from him. I had to decline the work, and you know, good golly, I was just trying to give you guys money, and the point is, we're so darn busy running our businesses that we can't take advantage of opportunities and think strategically and how can we do more strategic opportunities. Carl Katz will speak more towards that, sort of the day in the life of an IT pro in the SMB space in a new book that he has out. So we're going to get to Carl in a moment, but it's beyond frustrating. Trying to give someone out there anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 cash for weekend work at a time of year where, quite frankly, that kind of money would probably be welcome, and they're just so engaged in their business they can't even raise their head up to learn about this opportunity. What the E-Myth is all about is it's all about trying to make yourself the owner, trying to make yourself available to work on your business, not in your business. The storyline goes with a pie shop owner who gets burned out because she's there from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at a bakery making pies, and of course she burns out. I see this all the time with SMB IT pros. Love what we do, we just don't really run our small business well. And so that's first base, is to use this holiday season to read that book and maybe have a little bit of introspection and reflection on how you can run your business better. And I've tried to really adhere to the E-Myth Revisited. It's given to me by a Microsoft Security MVP, Dana Epp, and I, in fact, now work on my business and not necessarily in it with the team I have in place. You saw in that photo. Second book is The Ultimate Sales Machine by Holmes. You can find all these at the bookseller of your choice. Turbocharge your business with relentless focus and 12 key strategies. So what I want to tell you about here is, of course, get the book, read the book. I've both read it and I have it on audio, book audio, so that's really cool when you're working out on your bicycle. What we did a couple of years ago is we had an initiative called the Pocket MBA. So several of you maybe on this call participated in that. So it was kind of a 16-week MBA program for the other guy, if you will. And we used the book for one of the classes, and it was especially relevant because it's very, I'm going to say hands-on. It's definitely got some strategy, and it's definitely got some tactics, but it was hands-on. And kind of fast forward the movie, and he basically, one of his 12 key strategies is to do lunch and learns and get in front of a customer group, so maybe a group of veterinarians, and tell them how they could improve their billing and their efficiency by 50%. The book goes into all the taglines, how to promote the event, and so on. But the idea is you, it's cheap money. It's cheap money to have a beer fest or a luncheon, get in front of a vertical market of clients, sell your services, come out with some leads, and convert those leads to bona fide business. So the example I have next is eFolder. So eFolder's a sponsor of SMB Nation, and they are in the BDR space. Very, very progressive, by the way, doing some really cool stuff with Office 365, seeing it as a blue ocean opportunity, not a red ocean threat. Well, what they're doing, you really want to check out their site, by the way, and they're not a sponsor today, but what you want to do is, I think they're doing several hundred steak lunches across the U.S. and Canada next year. And these are high-end lunches. I mean, this is at Morton's. This is at Ruth Chris. I went to one with Marianne. I mean, it was everything and beyond. Great red wine, the full thick-cut steaks. And they've ROI'd this, right? They're saying, okay, we're going to do a few hundred lunches a year as a way to talk to, let's say, 15 to 25 people at a time. The client acquisition cost is X, but the return, the lifetime value of the client is Y, so we can justify it. It's basic math. And if anything, you get a free lunch out of it. And I literally yesterday got a text from a longtime SBSer, Lars Anderson in New Canaan, Connecticut, who was at an eFolder lunch, eating a thick cut and having a glass of red wine here in the holiday season. So at a minimum, get the free lunch. But what I want you to do, quite frankly, is copy them. And we're going to talk about how to do that with the Microsoft Community Connections program. in just a couple of slides when we get over to, we start to go around the bases in our baseball metaphor. So next up, we get another hit, and we go to second base. So Carl, you've been very patient, sir. Why don't you take a couple minutes to introduce yourself? I know you worked at Deloitte. Let's start with Deloitte, how you got in computers, and where you're at today, and where you live. How you doing, Carl?
Good, thanks, Harry. So actually came from the music business. I was working as a composer, producer, studio musician, and songwriter. And when I moved to Vancouver, I decided it was time to make a transition and started working in the education space at an educational institution that was like a Mac shop. But I did my MCSE while I was there. Instead of taking 6 months, it took a year, but it was well worth getting the experience. And then I moved from there to Deloitte, and then I moved to TELUS Enterprise Solutions, and I started my company at the time on the side, and by 2003 it was clear that it was either I was going to run the company full time or I was going to work full time. I decided to run the company full time, and pretty much after that, yeah, I mean.
Sure. Well, here you are. You're in excess of tenure. You've had your 10-year anniversary recently.
Yep.
And essentially, Carl, maybe just to clarify, it's an overused term, and it's actually becoming a generic term, like, the way we said Xeroxing for the word photocopying. But are you an MSP? Is that a fair label? Knowing what that means today, is that a fair label to apply to you?
Not yet, but I'm in conversations to actually start an MSP firm. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Tell us about your new book, and I think it's going to be available shortly up on the major resellers. Well, sir, what's your story? Then I'm going to ask you some specific questions about getting some base hits and eating an elephant one chunk at a time.
Well, it's interesting that you have this first base, second base, baseball analogy because every baseball team has a coach. Has a few coaches, but has a coach. And certainly, when I was trying to build my business, I realized that I needed help. So I actually got a business coach, and it basically was very effective. At tripling my business over a year and a half. So yeah, I was sort of really able to get a 40,000-foot view. I mean, when you're working in your business from day to day, it's kind of hard because you're kind of rushing around and taking care of business. But I was sort of able to get that 40,000-foot view. And as a business owner, the thing that one of the tools that was most useful to me was the 60-second cost-benefit analysis. In other words, what something was the true cost of what something was going to be. So out of that, I started to charge clients a half-hour travel time. I made several decisions, and my clients didn't blink. I mean, they were all satisfied, so they didn't blink.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool that you're able to do that? So let me ask you a few questions. You have your new book, and you've been gracious enough to let me see a review copy, and I'm looking forward to seeing the final copy. So we have an audience today that I'm trying to tell them that, the problem with swinging for the fences is you have a lot of strikeouts. And you're better off kind of playing the precision game and just kind of doing, again, I like to think of just one sales activity a day. I hold myself to that. At a minimum, Carl, I pop into CRM and I ping an account that I haven't had a chit-chat with in quite a long while. And in this case, wish them happy holidays. And so I do something every day. Let's draw from your book about how the audience, the MSP, the partner audience today, can not make this overly complex and acquire clients? What are your words of wisdom?
Well, I mean, there's always, there's marketing, but there's also, quiet time to, to reflect each day. I'm a big believer in spending 10 or 15 minutes of quiet time each day and just sort of reflecting on where your business is at and, asking the question, what is the next step I need to take my business to the next level? I mean, that's been, that's been invaluable. What's the next step I need to take?
Yeah, exactly. What are some of the methods you've used? I think you've been reasonably active in some of the user groups in the Vancouver area, some of the different outreach. What have you done?
Well, I mean,
kind of outside the four walls.
I talk about it in my book, but like one of the realities is, in the beginning, I mean, your territory is going to be very large. I was driving 30, 40 miles, when I first started out, and I decided to focus, on a territory. And, when you become good, your clients talk to other clients. So, I'd say none of my, none of my business was generated from my website. I had a website, but none of it was generated, but most of it was generated by word of mouth and from owners, business owners talking to others, owners talking to their friends, asking them, who they used, for their IT support. So, I just say, I mean, be humble and, treat your clients well and treat your clients respectfully and, do the good work, and you can't help but over time, become better at what you do. When I started out after my NCSC, I didn't have a lot of real world experience, and it just sort of incrementally year to year builds. And it's also downloading pre-release copies of OSs, of servers and desktops, and just playing with them, becoming familiar with them. I mean, the reality is that with server technology, not that much has changed. I mean, the core pieces, DNS and DHCP and so on and so forth, and AD. I mean, they haven't changed. Some of the cosmetic stuff has changed, but fundamentally, that hasn't changed. And once you master that, and you've been through enough situations, you can apply those to other situations. So.
Yep, and I know that maybe one of my last questions, because I do want to get to the hands-on element, I want to shift down to a lower gear and have a bona fide outcome today. But maybe my last question is you've made mention that you have had mentors, and so I think it was early in your career, and he was a thought leader. We don't hear from him as much, but Joshua Feinberg early in your career, and then I know most recently you've had some good interchange with Carl Palachuk, who
absolutely
of course is a thought leader. And so let's talk about mentoring. How's it worked for you? But it sounds like you've made that a key pillar to your success factor. It's a success factor for you.
Oh, well, definitely. I've definitely had several mentors. My first coach, was Phil Davis, and certainly I, achieved so much progress with him. But recently reached out to Carl and had a great conversation with him, and I mean, he's definitely a thought leader, as well as you, Harry.
Well, your advice is my advice is worth exactly what you paid for it, Carl.
Right.
But thank you for the compliment, sir. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let's get another base hit. Let's go to third base, and shout out to Todd Colback. So, folks, on monitor number 2, you're welcome to look up Todd Colback. Go to LinkedIn and look up Todd Colback over in Miami. Todd's a frequent speaker at our events, and he is in many ways Mr. LinkedIn, and there's a lot of Mr. and Mrs. LinkedIn's, but Todd is certainly right up there. He's been a real advocate early on about the power of LinkedIn. So here's the deal. I mean, I've been on LinkedIn forever, and probably didn't take it as seriously as I should. So I want to make this third base. Go ahead and get LinkedIn up on monitor number 2, guys, and please look at my profile as maybe an example, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how I use the groups. So first of all, I took a Saturday to update my profile and really thoughtfully work on it. I had Bob Hood, an SBSer out of Chicago, proofread it. He found a couple of grammatical errors, and I listed every book I've ever been involved in. And that took a while, Carl. I mean, I've had the good fortune of being involved in books, but more importantly, it took a while in a couple of cases to find some valid URLs for some of the early books, right? I wanted to have a link off. So if you see me putting it out there that I've published these articles, published these books, I've done this, I've done that, I want you to be able to click through and verify it and, answer any questions you have. So number one, I took a fair amount of time updating my profile and got it, code complete. Number 2, Todd coached me on something he's doing with his MSP clients. So he's a coach, and amongst other things, he does about 3 or 4 things, does an investment newsletter and so on. So he said, here's the deal. He's running a pilot. Let's take Seattle. That wasn't one of his pilot cities, but he's running a pilot, and he handpicks one of our MSPs to work with him for free in the Seattle area. Great. They update their LinkedIn profile. Great. Then they pick a group. And on my second monitor, what I have are Seattle groups. So I'm looking here at one called Network After Work with 3,500 members. I'm looking at the Greater Seattle Jewish Business Network with 1,200 members. And I'm looking at Linked Seattle with 52,000 members. And so pick your group. Maybe it's a neighborhood group. So in my case, Bainbridge Island. There's most certainly LinkedIn groups for Bainbridge Island, just like Facebook. So pick your group and then have daily posts to the group and become a top contributor. Or have activity every day in that group. Or Todd realistically said 3 times a week. Now, I have a different motivation. The screenshot you're seeing there is I'm a top contributor in the Microsoft Office 365 group with 54,000 members. And I have a business model surrounding O365, as you can see on the lower left. So I'm using this as my client acquisition model. And I have 2 clients. So I have readers. So, boy, howdy, you get up into some real numbers with that size of group, and you have people reading your daily blog. And then the other thing would be our community sponsors. And I'm telling you, it feels like a day doesn't go by where I don't have a private email or something from somebody who's either a reader or a vendor and wants to get in my orbit, wants to, as Grace Schroeder, who's developing our 365 site, says, the Wheel of Fun. So Club Harry and the Wheel of Fun. So they want to get in the Wheel of Fun. And literally, Carl, had an outreach yesterday from a firm in London in the UK that has a really cool 365 SharePoint tool. And we're going to have a very early Friday morning call Pacific time, GMT -8, back to London. So it'll be afternoon, Friday afternoon in London, to talk about how we can work together, learn a little bit more about each other, and so on. And so, a tip of the hat, a shout out to Todd Colbeck, because this really works. And so now let's get down to the MSP level. So how does it work in his test case? Here's what he said. You go to the group of your choice where you can be effective. So maybe Bainbridge Island Small Business Owners, whatever that group is. You become an authority. So you have ascribed credibility over time, right? You build up a reputation for making quality posts. And again, be realistic. And in a small group, you could probably be a top contributor with a post every couple of days. And have relevant conversations, and then magically the interchange will just happen. And so then what Todd said is have a cup of coffee. So take one of the connections that you meet and say, hey, let's meet at the Blackbird Cafe. I'll buy you a cup of coffee. I'd like to continue the conversation about technology in small business. And darn it, Carl, it works. I don't know what else to say, Carl. Maybe you have questions for me. How about that? Or does that all seem pretty straightforward to you?
Yeah, it's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So, folks, that's the next base. That's our third base, and it's just heavy lifting. I mean, it's just doing what you know works, and it's just a matter of doing it. And I can really tell you this works well. So let's go to home plate. Microsoft Community Connections. So this is kind of the takeaway for this gathering today. And basically, we've had webinars in the past on Microsoft Community Connections. What I'd encourage you to do on monitor number 2 is search engine that thing, Bing or Google, and click over to their site and see what their messaging is. I didn't want to have too many slides on Microsoft Community Connections because, again, quite frankly, we've covered it in the past. They're enthusiastic participant in our event model, so you probably met them. And Melanie Goss speaks on their behalf at our events and some other events. She's the Microsoft princess with the radio show. It's basically this. It's an event framework. It's an event team. It's an event engine to do some of the heavy lifting for you. Not all, but some of it. And so they will connect you. They have influencer organizations that reach out to them. They have partners that sign up and reach out to them. And I'm going to say they're essentially an intermediary. So they have some content that you can use to give a speech. And I'm going to suggest a lunch and learn. Let's go back to first base and the high-level conversation about eFolder and the steak lunches. So, you know, get out a spreadsheet, think about your client acquisition cost, and then think about the lifetime value of the client. So can you spend upwards of $30 for every, each person for lunch? Can you only spend $10? That's up to you. But basically create a lunch and learn event. It doesn't have to have food. It could be a 2-hour event in the afternoon. But I'm just trying to make you have you be successful by making it interesting for a potential customer to go. And then it's a matter of storytelling. Now, let's talk about storytelling. Carl, what's going on in our industry right now is that is kind of the buzzword of 2014. As we come to the end of the year. Every Microsoft meeting I'm in, I hear the word storytelling like 3 times. If you don't believe me, go on LinkedIn, look at Microsoft Open Jobs, and see how many times they say we want a storyteller, someone who's kind of a, we used to call them evangelists.
Right.
For a product or a service. Now you're a storyteller, so be the chief storytelling officer or the CSO. Have a little bit of fun with it, and have a story to tell about your technology solution. You're going to go a long way if you present this thing properly versus speeds and feeds with the steak lunch. That's not going to that's not going to fly as well. So, Carl, what I'm going to do, it worked in rehearsal. Okay, let me preface this, folks. We're at the bottom of the hour, by the way. Let me check our chat log and see if we have any questions. Questions are clear. That's fine. This is kind of a different type of webinar. Use the chat feature if you have questions. So let's do it. So, Carl, I'm gonna create an event, and I'm gonna tell you why you guys should be doing this. Please do this as I do it.
Okay.
There we go. So over on monitor number 2, folks, again, Google or Bing Microsoft Community Connections. It's a ready-to-go site. And get to this page. I am not going to offer feedback today. No thanks.
Huh.
Appreciate the offer.
Right.
Not going to do it. I'm going to sign in with my Microsoft account. So, and I hope it doesn't show my password, or else I'll have to quickly, okay, good. Very quickly change that. Good Lord, after all the security issues in the world. No, let's not store that password down at the lower right. Carl, can you see my screen? It's white right now, but are you seeing my screen for community connections and that kind of thing?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, appreciate that. Appreciate the confirmation. So, folks, I'm going to take a sip of water, followed by a sip of espresso, and I'm going to look at my second monitor, by the way. I have just, again, practicing what I preach. Carl, I have an inbound inquiry from a vendor based on my LinkedIn activity. Can't say it's today's LinkedIn post that I put up about an hour ago, but hi, Harry. I was wondering if you have any good stats on the Office 365 adoption rate since it's been released. Carl, that's real work. That's real engagement, to use an overused word.
That's a good question, actually.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I have to decide whether to tell the real truth or the public truth, but that's okay. I'll look in the mirror a little bit later on, Carl. I have to be careful, brother, because I do work for Microsoft occasionally as a vendor. And let's just say there's public information and there's private information. And it's important you know the context, let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, what I did on the lower right was I clicked on Create an Event. I'm going to go a little bit painfully slow because I want you to do this, okay? And we do have a little bit of time. There's a method to our madness. Carl, while I'm letting people catch up, I think you had a gift for one lucky listener today. Do you want to take a mention of that real quick?
Sure, yeah. Today we're giving away one copy of my book. There's going to be a draw, and we're giving away a copy of my book, IT Consulting Secrets, Proven Strategies They Don't Teach You for Growing and Maintaining a Successful IT Support Company.
Perfect, and that's going to happen at the end, so stay to the end, folks. Okay, get started. It's easy, but before we start, tell us about yourself. I am a Microsoft partner. Okay, I'm going to sign in. Now, this should be a single sign-on experience. In my experience, it is an SSO. So let's let it whirl and twirl. Otherwise, I have to go to computer number 2 and look up my super-duper secret partner number. And there we go. And it was a SSO, a single sign-on experience. So it validated based on my earlier logon. Creating your event. Now, folks, this is really important. We are going to create a fake event. We are going to create a fake event. It's okay. This is actually part of the MCC motion according to Melanie and according to Harry. And it's okay because what this does is it gets one foot out the door. An analogy I like to tell, or a parable or a story from my childhood when I was a ski racer back home in Anchorage, Alaska, and the top guy on the U.S. team said, just get one foot out the back door in the morning, Harry, and it's duck soup from there. So that's what we're doing. We are creating a fake event, and then you'll have something to work with. You'll have commitment. Hopefully you'll have some accountability internally, and you'll come back and make it a real event. So let's go through the motion. Please do this. Make up an event. We're going to put it about 60 days out, which I would recommend so you can acquire an audience and do this thing right. So with that said, you should be at this screen, and I'm going to type in an event. It's raining clouds. Okay.
Which is true in the Pacific Northwest right now.
Yes, it is raining clouds, and you like this. Dogs, cats, horses, and cows. Trying to have a little bit of fun here, folks. Take a little bit of time, create a fake event today, then work with some people in your orbit who can help you come up with a snazzy title and make this thing compelling to go to. Consider this your free lunch. Yes, there is a free lunch still to discover, don't say learn, discover all of the amazing efficiencies surrounding Office 365 and the cloud motion. Your animals, and I'm going to tell you in a minute why I'm doing this, your animals will appreciate it. Okay. Now, Carl, clearly we would type a longer description. Fair enough? But we're putting in a placeholder.
Right.
I'm going to pick from the pre-programmed lecture called Office in the Cloud. But you know what my favorite one is, Carl? It's the last one. I have my own topic.
Right.
And what I did and Carl, you were part of this motion. What I did back in the XP migration era is I had my own topic, and I did a 44-series MCC program with Jay Weiss and some other presenters across the U.S. Full disclosure, Lenovo was a sponsor, OOMA was a sponsor, and a few others. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why I had sponsors and why you should have sponsors too, and it is allowed. But basically, I have my own topic. I would highly recommend that's your favorite topic. Now, there are some, I'm going to offer ethical boundaries. So it's not cool to talk about competitors you and I know, Carl, on Microsoft's carpet.
Right.
You know, so guys, that's not going to win you any business. We're here to talk about Microsoft solutions. You're a Microsoft partner. Now, it is changing a little bit. Office for iPad does reflect the new CEO's attitude of a more open organization. So a little bit of flexibility, but you get the point. Okay, community event. So we are going to do the Washington Veterinary. I'm going to definitely misspell that. Carl, if you want to help, V-E-T-I-N-A-R-Y, veterinarians?
I think it's veterinarians. V-E-T-E-R.
Okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, look it up. No, we're taking our time, folks. This is a good slowdown motion. It's like putting a sea anchor behind a boat that's trolling for salmon. I want you to go with me on this one, and I'll tell you why I'm picking a vertical. While Carl's doing that.
V-E-T-E-R-E-N-A-R-I-A-N.
Okay, take it from the top. V-E-T.
V-E-T-E-R.
Yes.
I-N.
Yes.
A-R-I-A-N.
Okay, Washington Veterinarians Association. I'm going to put my phone number in. And folks, you're welcome to call me if you have any trauma. And I'm more than serious about that. Ed and on our team will be happy to help you out with this step. Does your organization have small business owners? Yes. So here's the deal. The intent of an influencer organization is it's a business association. It's not a political or religious association. And so this would be a trade group. I mean, literally, this would be a 501c3 trade group. This qualifies. And so what you want to do, let me take a second to talk about verticals. We're going to talk about it again, but briefly, I love verticals. I'm working with some sponsors right now in the O365 space that you, Carl, and everyone here knows, and they're asking, can we talk to vertical markets instead of general markets and small business? I said, yes, it's very easy. Go to the trade association for vets, go to the trade association for doctors, lawyers, accountants, that kind of thing, and it's targeted audience. I'd highly recommend it. Now, why veterinarians? In my 44-city tour for XP Migration, the very best business model I ran into was my main man, SBSer Joe Axney in Denver, Colorado, who's niched on veterinarians, and he says it's healthcare without humans. He said, you know, you don't have the whole Medicaid restriction thing. Carl, a little bit of different concept because you're up in Canada, but
right.
But healthcare without humans, and he said you wouldn't believe what Americans spend on their pets. It's a beautiful thing, and that's what a vertical will do for you. So you heard it here first. It's raining, what I say, cats, dogs, horses, and cows, and now you know why.
Right.
I would like the event to be public. Yes. Guys, let's have a stretch goal. Let's do 50 attendees. Let's ship the kit. So you get a kit, and I want to talk about that. I'm going to put my real information in. Happy to do so. I should be able to know how to spell my own last name. 9723, Copper Top Loop Northeast, Suite 202, Bainbridge, Island, WA 98110, and we'll use the same phone number. I'm going to probably have to call the team and tell them that this was more than a fake event. They don't need to mail me the kit, but I'll deal with that later. Would you like to add a custom logo? I'm not going to do that now, but this would be your corporate logo. I'm using my trainer machine, so I don't have the artwork on this. So I'm going to go to the next step. Carl, how's that sound? Carl, I want you to be. I want you to get me keep me honest.
Looking good so far, Harry.
Okay. How do you want to sign in? Well, I guess that was the next step. Good Lord. I can tell you this. That's the basic process. So let's review what we've done. We found the Microsoft Community Connections event page, number 1. We logged on as a Microsoft partner, number 2. Now that can be a showstopper for people who are not Microsoft partners. I've seen it all. And so then number 3, we said create an event. Number 4, we created a fake event. And I emphasize fake event. It's a placeholder to get us going. Number 5, we completed that process. We estimated the number of attendees we would like. And of course, we can come back later and make it real, add the, quite frankly, add the exact real date and time and the address of the event and so on. Carl, does that make sense so far?
Absolutely.
Okay. And folks, I want you to do that. We're going to call that a win. And let me see what my questions are. And we have a winner chicken dinner being queued up. So you guys stay on because we'll go to winner number 2 if you're not on when we draw. Heather's in the background spinning the wheel. So let's go to the next slide. Final thoughts, vendor MDF funds. There are a lot of lectures in the SMB, MSP space at conferences. Haven't seen them in recent years, but for a long time there were lectures on how to get vendor MDF funding, and that's market development funds. And that's one of the things vendors do, is you sign up as a partner, and there's typically monies available in a couple of different ways. One would be just sort of what I'll call general funding, where you work with the vendor, perhaps a firewall vendor, a VDR, RMM type vendor that has a product that you ultimately resell to customers. reach out to your account rep, ask about MDF funds. So number one would be a general fund, and then number two would be a compete fund. This would be a little bit different motion, but let's say you're in a competitive situation and you want them to fly out, one of their representatives, or meet with you at the client site because you're bidding against brand X. And so there's oftentimes with the larger organizations compete funding. That wouldn't quite be the right bucket for an MCC event or a Microsoft Community Connection event. The second final thought is use Microsoft stores. Okay, this is another hidden jewel. They are free. There are a lot of them in the U.S. Carl, I believe they recently opened one in Vancouver. I know we had a chat that I thought they were. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, I think it's in Metrotown.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they've crossed the border. They each have a training room. You can use the Microsoft stores for free, and they're typically very generous. Now, don't hold me to this, but in the 44 event tour we did, they would typically provide the cold drinks for free. I provided the pizzas, whatever was on the menu, and they would provide the drinks. That varies by store. They would have giveaways in Chotsky. They would often have a discount card for each attendee, and they also had a good attitude, so it was a pleasure to work with them. We like to work with people we like, let me tell you. So use the Microsoft stores. It's very simple. That would be the address for holding your gathering. The kit can be shipped to them. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend the MCC kit be shipped to your place of business so it doesn't get lost. Put that event date 60 days out so you have plenty of time to get the kit, acquire the audience, rehearse, etc. I would encourage you to have a giveaway. We're an industry of toys, and so I have to believe everyone on this call who's gone to a recent conference has rubber balls and squeezy balls and screen cleaners and hand washers and that kind of thing. So try to have some giveaways and maybe a prize. Do the basic event ROI calculation to think about if you're able to provide catering. And the Microsoft stores, by the way, I'm going to have to tell you a couple of funny stories that they have kids' birthday parties, Carl, that people, Microsoft partners, think about it. Microsoft partners, and there's, so a partner and his or her spouse, they have a kid, and they go in and have the Microsoft training area with, the full AV configuration for a loud birthday party. Well, what's cool about that? Xbox.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing better. And so I have not seen a wedding, and I have not seen a funeral at a Microsoft store. But hey, stay tuned for the next webinar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to end with, we're about 10 minutes out, some time for questions. Use the chat feature. But I'm going to end with everything helps everything. And I take a portfolio point of view to managing my business, always have, that it's easy to say, and I talk with sponsors, but you're going to get this. It's easy to say, well, let's not do direct mail. Let's not do phone calls. Darn it, every time I do phone calls, I get 80% voicemails. Direct mail doesn't work. Let's not do newspaper ads. Let's not do a tabletop at the local Chamber of Commerce Business Day. Let's not do this. Let's not do that. And, it's easy to think that way. It's easy to think, well, that didn't work. But I'm just the opposite. Everything helps everything, because I know if you stop any one thing, I know what the outcome is if you stop trying. Right, Carl? I know if you don't market. I know what's going to happen then.
Right.
And then you can really get into sort of a mental kerfuffle about, well, let's not do this, let's not do that. I argue everything helps everything. So the LinkedIn blogs, the MCC events, being active in your community, your Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, etc. So folks, what I'm going to do,
Harry, by the way, you told me you blog every morning, right?
Yeah. I get up. I get up on the early side. Just do, Carl. I suspect you do. Just do, and get up and have coffee. So typically at my desk by 6 a.m. Pacific. Part of that is we have a lot of East Coast clients. So I got to kind of leverage that, and then I typically write from anywhere from 6 to 8 a.m., kind of keep half an eye on the weather on TV. The trading starts at 8 a.m. It's flat out until I'm going to offer about 4 p.m. And then, Carl, I kind of shift over into the relax, focus, succeed mode, balance mode, and that's when I do the bike rides you see up on Facebook. Is typically trading is halted about 4 p.m. and I'm out walking Astro the dog or riding the bike, and that's a whole another webinar, folks. But as you learn a little bit more about Carl Palachuk, you'll learn he's all about balance, and that is a webinar into itself. Let me check the Q&A. Is it okay for us to get the kit for this fake event? And I'm going to say yes. We have a question. I think the team's on this webinar. I'll certainly hear from them if I'm in the wrong, my bad. But here's why it's okay. Because you're honor bound to convert this to a real event. Okay, so I'm going to give you a yes because you're making it happen and you're honor bound to pivot this information to a real event, a real date, time, place, and audience. And when you get the kit, that's going to probably be a trigger to make it so. I'd like you to make it so today or in the next couple of days. I would not recommend an event between now and the end of the year as we head into the high holidays. I literally would put it out. Personally, I'd put it out into February. Let me see. About to announce the winner. What is fourth base? We have a little bit of a joke here. Where you land the new client relationship, fourth base. Well, here's the deal. There's first, second, third, and home base. So that's actually a valid point. Maybe we better say that the score is when you land the client. That's actually a good question, though. Good play on the metaphor that I have up. Last call for questions, and then we will announce the winner. Going once, twice. I'm looking at the control panel. Heather, thanks for being back in the control room and operating the control panel. Looks like we're clean. Heather says you're welcome. Well, back at you, Heather. You're doing a great job. So we have a winner, and it's John Twig. So Carl will get you the information about Mr. John Twig. Everybody, you're going to get a thank you email from us. You're going to get a link to replay this webinar. Highly recommend you share that link in your organization. If you're a geek, share it with your business partner and make it so. And again, hope you appreciate the methodology we used today. We took a little bit of extra time to actually grab a lower gear and do it. So thank you very much. Carl, thank you, sir. Have a great holiday season.
Thanks, you too, Harry.
Vancouver. Okay, everybody back to the salt mine. Talk to you later.